There's a woman named Emma, living in a small town, struggling to get by. Her life is full of challenges. She works long hours at a local diner, hoping the tips will be enough to cover the bills. But no matter how hard she tries, it's never enough. Her debt keeps piling up. Rent, medical bills, loans, everything is overdue. Every month she wonders how she's going to make it. Her landlord calls. The bank sends threatening letters. It's a constant cycle of fear. Emma never expected things to get this bad. A few years ago, she had everything going for her. She was healthy, happy, and working a steady job. But one accident changed everything. A car crash left her with medical bills she couldn't afford. Her life turned upside down. Despite working overtime, there was always something new that would come up. Another bill she couldn't pay. She feels trapped. Each night, she lies awake staring at the ceiling, stressing about what will happen if she can't pay off her debts. The weight of it all is crushing. It feels like there's no way out. She wishes she could catch a break, but the harder she works, the further she seems to fall behind. Her friends try to cheer her up, but they don't understand. They can't imagine the pressure she's under. Emma keeps pushing forward, trying to keep hope alive, but it's hard. She feels like she's drowning. And no matter what she does, she can't seem to keep her head above water. Life has become a daily struggle, and Emma doesn't know how much longer she can keep going like this. She doesn't realize that everything is about to change. One afternoon, a man named James was in town for a business trip. He was the CEO of a successful tech company and lived a life many people dreamed of. Fancy cars, luxury homes, and endless opportunities. James had it all. He rarely thought about the struggles of people like Emma, because his world seemed so far removed from hers. But that day, something changed. As he walked through the town square, he noticed something unusual. A small group of people were gathered around a woman sitting on the curb. She looked exhausted, overwhelmed. She had tears in her eyes, clutching a stack of bills. James could tell right away that she was in some kind of trouble. Her distress was so obvious, yet she tried to hide it, wiping her eyes quickly whenever someone noticed. James didn't know what it was, but something about her situation tugged at his heart. He didn't know her, yet he felt a pull to help. As he stood there, watching from a distance, he overheard a few people talking. They mentioned her name, Emma, and the fact that she was struggling with debt. The amount she owed was staggering, and it sounded like she had no way out. James thought about it for a while. His life was filled with luxury. But what was the point of all that wealth if it didn't bring him any true happiness? He didn't need more money, but maybe he could use his fortune to make a real difference in someone's life. After a few moments of hesitation, he made a decision. He would help her, without expecting anything in return. He didn't know how he would reach out, but he was determined to find a way. James didn't waste time. He hired a private investigator to find out more about Emma. He wanted to make sure he understood her situation before taking any action. Within a day, he had her address and learned about her job at the diner. He contacted the diner, explaining that he wanted to meet her. At first, Emma was suspicious. Why would someone like him want to meet her? She thought it might be some kind of joke or scam. She'd been through enough trouble in her life to know that nothing came for free. But James insisted. He told the diner manager to reassure Emma that he meant no harm and just wanted to offer help. After some back and forth, Emma agreed to meet him. Though she still had doubts in her mind, she wasn't sure what to expect, but part of her knew she had nothing left to lose. When they finally met, Emma was taken aback. James was nothing like what she imagined. He wasn't here to flaunt his wealth or make her feel inferior. He came across as kind and genuine, not the arrogant, untouchable rich guy she had expected. He sat across from her at a small cafe, his calm presence making her feel a little more at ease. "I know this might sound strange," James began, "but I've heard about your situation, and I want to help." Emma stared at him, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "Help? What do you mean? Why would you want to help me? You don't even know me." James smiled gently. "I don't need to know you personally to see that you're struggling. I've been in a place where everything seemed impossible, and I want to help you get through this. I can pay off your debt, every penny." Emma's heart raced. She couldn't believe what he was saying. It felt unreal. Was this some kind of cruel prank? She asked him again, trying to make sense of it. You're serious? She asked. You'd really do that for me? No strings attached? James nodded. No strings. I just want to help you live a life free of the constant worry. You deserve peace. Emma's mind was racing, trying to process what was happening. She had spent years drowning in debt, and now here was a man offering to take it all away. It seemed too good to be true, yet his calm demeanor made her believe that he wasn't lying. Why? She asked softly. Why would you do this for me? You don't know me. James paused for a moment. Because I can. And because it feels right. We all need someone to give us a hand every once in a while. This is my way of doing that. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away, trying to regain composure. She couldn't find the words to express what she was feeling. Gratitude, shock, disbelief, all of it was too overwhelming. She stared at him, still trying to figure out why someone so successful would care about someone like her. But there was no agenda behind his words, it was pure kindness. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't have to say anything, James replied with a warm smile. Just know that this is for you. And with that, Emma's life began to change. As Emma walked away from the cafe, her mind was spinning. The weight that had been crushing her for so long was suddenly gone. Her debts were paid off. No more sleepless nights worrying about how to make the next payment. No more dread when the phone rang or when the bills piled up. It felt unreal, like she had stepped into a different world, one where anything was possible. But despite her overwhelming gratitude, Emma knew one thing for sure. There was no way she could just say, "Thank you," and walk away. What James had done for her was beyond words. It was the kind of kindness that couldn't be repaid with just a simple thanks. She had to do something more, something that would show him how much his generosity meant. She thought about what she could give him. Money? No. He didn't need money. A gift? What could she possibly buy that would be worthy of the impact he had on her life? Then it hit her. What if she could give him something that couldn't be bought? For days, Emma planned. She didn't have much, but she had time, and she could put that to good use. She decided to invite James to her small apartment for a homemade meal. She didn't have much in terms of ingredients, but what she could offer was her best effort. Something personal, made with love. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it was sincere. She spent the next few days cleaning her apartment, making sure everything was perfect. The apartment wasn't much, small, modest, and a little worn, but it was hers, and she wanted it to feel welcoming. She made her grandmother's recipe for lasagna, the one that had always been a favorite in her family. The recipe was simple, but it was made with care and tradition. It felt like the right thing to do. When James arrived, he was surprised. He hadn't expected anything in return. But there she was, ready to share a meal with him. It wasn't fancy, but it was meaningful. They sat at her small kitchen table, and Emma served him the lasagna she had made. As they ate, Emma told him how much his kindness had changed her life. She spoke about the sleepless nights, the constant worry, and the crushing burden she had felt for years. But she also spoke about how his act of generosity had lifted that weight. She told him how much it meant to know that someone cared, that there was still goodness in the world. James listened quietly, humbled by her words. He wasn't used to being thanked like this. He'd helped people in the past, but none of those acts had felt as personal as this one. He could see the depth of her gratitude in the way she spoke, and it touched him more than anything else could. You don't have to thank me, James said, his voice soft. I didn't do this to be thanked. I just wanted to make a difference. But Emma shook her head. You don't understand. You didn't just pay off my debt. You gave me my life back. You gave me hope. Her words hung in the air, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. It was a quiet moment, but in it, there was a sense of connection that neither of them had expected. James had helped her in a way that went beyond money. He had given her something more valuable. Peace of mind, a future, and a reminder that kindness still existed. As the evening came to an end, Emma walked James to the door. She gave him a heartfelt hug, thanking him once again. It was a simple gesture, but it meant everything. James left her apartment that night, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of fulfillment that came from knowing he had done something truly meaningful. and Emma, for the first time in years, felt a spark of hope that had been long extinguished. The impact of that one act of kindness would stay with her forever. Over the next few months, Emma's life began to shift in ways she hadn't imagined possible. With the weight of her debts lifted, she was free to focus on rebuilding. The anxiety that had consumed her every day slowly began to fade. She slept better, smiled more, and even found the energy to take on new challenges. Her work at the diner improved, and for the first time in a long while she felt like she was truly in control of her life again. One of the first things Emma did was look for a better job. She felt like she could finally aim for something more stable, something that would allow her to grow. She didn't want to just survive, she wanted to thrive. Within weeks, she found a position as a manager at a small local cafe. The pay wasn't extravagant, but it was steady, and it was a step up. Emma felt proud of herself for taking the leap, and it was all thanks to James's kindness. Meanwhile, James often thought about Emma. He couldn't help but reflect on how her gratitude had affected him. Helping her had opened his eyes to something he had been missing. Despite all his wealth, he realized that it wasn't money that brought him true satisfaction. It was the act of helping others, making a real difference in their lives. He didn't expect Emma to repay him for his help, but he was pleased to see her turning her life around. One afternoon, he received an email from her. It was short but heartfelt. "I just wanted to let you know how much your kindness changed my life. I'm doing so much better now, and I can finally breathe again. You showed me that there's still hope. Thank you, James, for everything." The message touched him deeply. It wasn't just the words, it was the fact that Emma was thriving, that she was building a new life for herself. A few months later, James ran into Emma at a local event. She had invited him, not as someone who owed him a debt, but as a friend. Emma had become someone who wanted to give back to her community. She had started volunteering at a shelter, offering help to those who had once been in a similar situation. She was paying forward the kindness that James had shown her, and it was making a difference. Seeing Emma so full of life and purpose made James realize that his small act of kindness had set off a chain of events that he hadn't even anticipated. It wasn't just the money he had given her. It was the spark of hope that had reignited her will to keep going. Years later, James and Emma stayed in touch. They weren't close friends, but they respected each other deeply. Whenever they met, they shared updates on their lives. James continued to support charitable causes, while Emma expanded her own work in the community, helping others find the strength to overcome their struggles. Both of their lives had been changed by a simple act of kindness, and neither of them would ever forget the impact it had. They had both learned that wealth wasn't the measure of a person's worth, and that kindness, no matter how big or small, could create lasting change.